man.
Brudos got in his car and drove away, nursing another failure.
The girls that fought him ran, screamed, or whatever, escaped. He was not that type of personality that would have chased him down and killed him right there. He wanted him for a toy in his workshop.
He realized he needed to lure his victims rather than scare them. He bought a fake police badge and began staking out the parking garage at the Lloyd Center Mall in Portland. There, he spotted 22-year-old Linda Saley. As Linda walked to her car, arms full of birthday presents for her boyfriend, Brudos approached.
He confronted her and with a badge, saying that he was a security officer and that they'd been getting a lot of shopliftings going on, and she'd have to come down to the police station for further questioning.
Reluctantly, Linda got into Jerome's car. He drove her all the way from Portland to Salem and straight into his garage.
He took her inside of his workshop, tied her up. He goes to dinner. He eats his dinner. He comes back out, and the girl was sitting there, untied, and didn't move. So she must have had in her head that he was going to release her.
Jerome retied Linda and suspended her from the ceiling while he undressed and photographed her.
She could just stand on her toes, and not choke. And then when he thought he'd had enough or whatever, he'd just give it a couple more cranks and choked her.
They don't feel emotion the way that normal people do. The dichotomy between going up and eating with his family and the fact that there was a victim in the basement dying made him feel like a very, very accomplished predator.
Jerome tied Linda's body to an engine block and once again headed for the bridge crossing the Long Tom River. For Brudos, this wasn't a perfect murder. He hadn't taken a trophy.
He didn't cut her breasts off. When I asked him why, he said the breasts were pink. There was no little discolored ring around the nipple, and he didn't like that.
Serial killers keep on killing because you embellish and develop this fantasy until you'll have the perfect murder.
Brudos knew he could have the perfect murder as long as no one stopped him, and he believed himself to be so much smarter than his pursuers that no one ever would. Between January of 1968 and April of 1969, at least 4 women disappeared from Oregon's Willamette Valley. Police were growing increasingly concerned and frustrated. They didn't yet know the victims were dead. 30-year-old Jerome Henry Brudos, a sex fetishist and serial rapist, was killing at will. Then, a stunning discovery changed everything. 2 of the bodies that Brudos so cleverly hid were found. On May 10, 1969, a local fisherman discovered a woman's weathered body floating in the Long Tom River. Police correctly identified her as Linda Saley. An autopsy revealed evidence of strangulation.
We had a vicious killer out there somewhere. At that point, we didn't know much more.
After the discovery of Saley's body, investigators conducted a thorough search of the river. 2 days later, police recovered the body of Karen Sprinker, also a strangled victim, just feet from where Saley's body surfaced. While news of the vicious murders shocked and sickened locals, Jerome Brudos simply shrugged. He remained confident that any evidence found would not link him to the bodies.
The bodies were tied with a rope with a knot. The knot was unusual. The knot was used by electricians when they're pulling wire through a house.
As police combed their files on electricians, another investigation began at Oregon State, where Karen Sprinker had gone to school.
The police department in Benton County interviewed a lot of girls out of the college to determine if any of those girls had ran into and had dates with strange individuals.
After talking to hundreds of girls, investigators made a crucial discovery.
One of the girls actually had a date, a coke date, with a young man who was driving a station wagon. Had a lot of baby clothes and young kids' clothes in the car.
Another student reported meeting a man wandering the dormitories. The man explained that he was a Vietnam vet looking for companionship. He wouldn't stop talking about the bodies and the missing women. She found it creepy and agreed to help police lure him into a trap.
The police over there made it known to her that if he called again, to be sure and let them know, and he did. The police were waiting for him. He readily identified himself as Jerry Brudos.
Detective Jim Stovall requested a police background check on Brudos and discovered that he worked as an electrician. But more importantly, Stovall learned of Jerome's previous hospitalizations for attacks on teenage girls. Wanting to learn more, Detective Stovall paid Brudos a visit.
So we went around to where his garage is and talked there. The officers found a rope that the bodies of Karen Sprinkler and Sally had been tied down with. So there was clear indication that he might be responsible.
The officers didn't have a search warrant. Without the rope, they lacked crucial evidence. Inexplicably, Brudos solved their problem.
And he says, you seem to be interested in that rope. Would you like to have a piece of it? I says, yeah, that'd be great. So he cut me off a piece.
Serial killers are convinced that they're smarter than law enforcement. They start to taunt the police, and they start to get sloppy because they think the police can't catch them.
With an assist from the murderer, forensic scientists quickly linked Brudos to the rope used to bind his victims. Despite his bravado, Brudos felt alarmed by the police questioning. He paid a discreet visit to attorney Dale Drake.
He maintained his innocence completely, and I advised him that that was great if he was innocent, but if he were guilty, that he should not allow the police to search his house and or cars.
Brudos took the advice to heart. By the time police obtained a search warrant for his car, he'd beaten them to the punch.
The whole inside of his car was soaking wet. So I said to him, hey, Jerry, what happened to your car? He says, oh, we went to a car wash and my boy left the window down and flooded it.
Police desperately needed evidence to charge and arrest Brudos. If Gloria Smith, the junior high girl he attacked on April 22nd, could ID him, they could at least hold him on kidnapping charges. They showed her a photo lineup.
I had about 10 or 12 pictures, and I laid them out in front of her. I told her, take your time, look very carefully at each one. And if you see anyone that looks familiar, let me know. She stopped in the middle and said, well, this looks like him. But he had freckles all over. Well, it was a picture of Jerry Brudos.
On May 30th, 1969, police caught up with Jerome and Ralphine Brudos driving north towards the Canadian border. Police followed, armed with an arrest warrant.
We decided we would execute the warrant of arrest. And when we got to Salem, he didn't get off the freeway. He kept going. North, we stopped the car, and I placed him under arrest.
250 miles from the border, police found Brudos hiding under a blanket in the back seat.
When we arrested him,